This is the Extra Mile.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Extra Mile. I'm Justin, and that's G5. What's up, George?
What's good, man?
And we're all here with Caleb. Hey, Caleb.
Hey.
Has he got the camera on him?
Yeah.
Oh, he's camered up. Anyway, we have him in his nice little corner now. We should get you an easy chair.
Oh, yeah.
We need somebody to donate
Yes.
an easy chair to us.
Or one of those full-body massage chairs. And I'll just sit here and get a massage while y'all
It's
talk.
like,
on
what's
that.
that, what's that buzzing in the recording? Oh, is it feedback? No, it's Caleb's
Caleb.
easy chair.
Little sparkling water with an umbrella.
Oh, yeah.
Would you like a new lime slice, sir?
Yes, please. Hope everyone had a good Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it was good.
Welcome back.
It was good. I had a great Thanksgiving, and I come back and I ask everyone. It's the first thing I ask everyone that first Sunday back, and just like, "How was your Thanksgiving? How was your week?" Everyone's like depressed, miserable. No one gave a good answer.
From
Everyone was
Thanksgiving?
like, "Yeah." Everyone was like, "It was all right. It's fine." And then that's why I went and I made a sermon about what do you do like in the stressful holidays, like because everyone was down. And it's fine. You can be down. Nothing wrong with that. And down too. But it didn't help that I came back from like one of the best weeks of the year. So, I mean, perspective.
Hashtag your best life. Well, if you had one of the best weeks of your life, tell us about it.
I didn't say life. I said year. There's 52 weeks in a year.
Apologies. I stand corrected. I've been doing this new thing now with my family because we have an insatiable habit of correcting each other. And so our son's picking it up, and we've noticing like, I guess we do that, these little character flaws. And so to make fun of it is I will stand up in conversation, and I'll just say, corrected, and then I'll sit down. So I stand corrected. But
You stand corrected.
Yeah, but like, we'll be in Slim Chickens or something, like we'll be at dinner.
So you'll stand up in the
And
restaurant.
I will literally stand up in the restaurant and yell, corrected.
I declare bankruptcy!
It's a little bit of that. And it's always gotten a laugh. Sorry, I'm blowing out the mic. It's always gotten a laugh. And so I've been doing it for a little while now.
Cool.
So I'll keep doing it.
That's great.
Anyway, just to make fun of the fact that, oh yeah, I did kind of correct you. Sorry.
I don't even remember what you corrected me on.
I corrected you? No, I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Oh, the year.
Well, have you ever had a few of those days where they're just, Groundhog Days?
Of course.
I'd relive this one. This is a good one. Things just end up perfect. Well, I can count maybe like on one hand how many days I've had those, and they're like perfect days, and then that week possessed one of those days.
Huh.
So, that's what made them really special and
Was it
everything
your
else.
treehouse Airbnb?
Yeah, that was really nice. Yeah, and the mountains and the beauty, and my girls are growing up and they're becoming more kiddish, doing kid things, and they were enjoying the hike. And I don't know, you could just see that was a very developmental week. Then you have Thanksgiving. I don't know. This is just, I don't know. Yeah, just a good stuff. A lot of good stuff. Good combination here.
It seems like there's a lot of stop and smelling the roses in that story.
Yeah, I mean, you're walking through this, fall foliage, and it's just like it's snowing leaves, and it's beautiful colors in the mountains, and you're going through these. No, it's just really, really pretty, and yeah, the girls are like jumping up and walking through, and it was just a good time. Yeah.
Have you never met anybody who comes to Lubbock that's just sort of like, the landscape here is so beautiful?
Okay, so the guy who cut my hair, he says he loves Lubbock, and he comes from. Where do you think he comes from? Think of the most beautiful place in the world.
Costa Rica.
Austria.
Greece. He comes from Greece.
What? What? No.
Yeah, and he's like, I love it
Alps.
here. I moved to Austin from Greece, and I hated it because of how busy it was and how crazy, and I'm like, okay. I was like, but this is like the ugliest place on the planet, dude. You came from Greece. And he's like, it's just a different kind of beauty. This is a Greece pace of life. And I was like, oh, interesting. Very interesting.
Lubbock is a Greece pace of life.
A Greece pace of life. Where at the same time, America, he said, these are his words, I can make something of myself. So So
Somebody said that the other day, that America truly was the land of the free still, even though we may not believe it. It's sort of, there's so much opportunity for us here.
yeah, he was a really interesting dude.
I would say that that's really interesting to consider putting into context, like smelling the roses, enjoying life, and saying, you know what, I'm alive, I'm breathing air. And I was saying before the recording that I really enjoy doing the podcast, A, because we get to drink coffee, and B, which is the conversation is really inspiring. I never really leave one of our podcast sessions down. And so I always feel edified just being among my brothers in Christ and talking about life and about common experiences. And we bring a lot to the table because I think we're different generations in some degrees, but then some aspects we're the same. I know but it's nice because we have different outlooks. Like, for instance, your love of Lord of the Rings and my love of Harry Potter. But our
I love
communal
Twilight. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
And George's love of Twilight.
I've never seen it.
Still, I was reading Jeremiah about how he was in prison. That's still a better love story than Twilight. But anyway, I know that it's really easy to kind of lose focus.
Yeah.
Especially with stress and travel, and you're spending money and then seeing people that you don't really know.
Yeah. And
they don't really know you, but they knew you when you were 15, or they knew things that you've done a long time ago, and so it's interesting to sort of get interjected back into that, and everybody kind of has to experience it because those specific holidays are being with your family.
Yeah, and to be fair, many people probably had you get those post vacation blues. And I had just came back, and I had written a sermon on heaven. It was just a good time. Although that sermon beat my head against the wall. It was it was really good. But there was something in that sermon that we could talk about. I mean, it's in Luke 8. I think it's Luke 8.
Luke 8.
When I was writing it, I just thought it was interesting.
The Ocho. Well, we got the sower, the lamp, Jesus stilling the sea, the demon cursed or cured, and then miracles
that guy.
of healing.
Yeah, the demon curse. Was that verses 40? His reaction to Jesus when Jesus speaks to him is at 43.
I know I have an eye appointment coming up soon. It's like my eyes are dying. Okay, here we go. 26. Luke 8:26.
Let me get there. Luke 8:26. No, it's further down.
Oh. Miracles of healing.
So, well, you can read the whole story if you wanted to. Yeah, go ahead, read from 26 to the 8 when he's all healed.
So we're reading about the demoniac. This is Luke 8:26. Then they sailed to the country of the Gerasenes, which is opposite Galilee. And when he came out onto the land, he was met by a man from the city who was possessed with demons, and who had not put on any clothing for a long time, and was not living in a house, but in the tombs. Seeing Jesus, he cried out and fell before him, and said in a loud voice, "What business do we have with each other, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I beg you, do not torment me." For he had commanded the unclean spirit to come out of the man. For it had seized him many times, and he was bound with chains and shackles, and kept under guard, and yet he would break his bonds, and be driven by the demon into the desert. And Jesus asked him, "What is your name?" And he said, "Legion," for many demons had entered him. They were imploring him not to command them to go away into the abyss. The abyss. Now there was a herd of many swine feeding there on the mountain, and the demons implored him to permit them to enter the swine, and he gave them permission. And the demons came out of the man and entered the swine, and the herd rushed down the steep bank into the lake and was drowned. When the herdsmen saw what had happened, they ran away and reported it in the city and out in the country. The people went out to see what had happened, And they came to Jesus, and found the man from whom the demons had gone out, sitting down at the feet of Jesus, clothed, and in his right mind. And they became frightened. Those who had seen it reported to them how the man who was demon-possessed had been made well. And all the people of the country of the Gerasenes and the surrounding district asked him to leave them, for they were gripped with great fear. And he got into a boat and returned. But the man from whom the demons had gone was begging him that he might accompany him. But Jesus sent him away, saying, "Return to your house and describe what great things God has done for you." So he went away, proclaiming throughout the whole city what great things Jesus had done for him.
So in my sermon, I only talked about those last two verses, and I pointed out that talking about heaven, this is a guy who had a heavenly mindset, right? He's someone who begged and longed for Jesus, but in the meantime told everyone what Jesus had done for him, right? But when I read that, it really hit me. Notice he goes, what Jesus says. It's like, return to your home in verse 39 and declare what God has done for you. That's what he says. But then what does he do? He says, so he went away proclaiming throughout the whole town what Jesus had done for him.
He knew that Jesus was God.
Yeah. To him, Jesus was God, as it should have been, right? And he knew that. And God told, and it's just a really cool way of Jesus being like, hey, I'm God, but then not in a showy way, a sense.
That's a really great point, George.
I was like, wow. But then that just goes to show, like, can we do that? Like, can we go tell people what God has done for us? What Jesus has done for us? Like if someone was like, what has Jesus done for you, Justin? What would you say, or Caleb?
What I would say?
Yeah.
I would say he's definitely given me a lot of blessings, and that I think that he has placed many open doors in my path that allow me to grow closer to him. I mean, opportunities that other people haven't really gotten. And so I have a pretty unique story. And if that's something for me to be able to proclaim Christ and say, you know what, there's greater ways of finding love and finding ways of touching other people and finding ways of helping others and caring, where that's not who I was when I was younger. I was all about excellence, and I was all about justice, and I was all about trying to be the best person that I could be. And then there's a shift of how do I do that but then serve? And so I think that's the mindset that I'm trying to follow in being a disciple of Christ. But when it comes to like him taking demons out of me, I mean, I've had not, I don't know if they're demons. I don't know
some
if
pretty dark
I was
places.
possessed, but yeah, I had thoughts, and I had I had experiences, and I had places where I felt I couldn't get out, and choices that I had made that I knew I had to suffer consequences for, and that burden gets a lot lighter, especially when someone who also is of Christ reaches out to you and say, I've been there before. It's going to be okay.
Right.
And I can't tell you, I won't tell you what that was, but I had someone of the faith who I had known my whole life reach out to me in a time of distress and just say, hey, it's going to be okay. And you're going to be fine. And how much comfort that brought me when that's really what I needed to hear from someone who...
You didn't need a plan, 30-day plan, how to get out of your...
Yeah, or even just sort of like, well, this is your path back to salvation, and this is this is how you get back to Christ. And it's like, you know, it really changed my way of thinking when it came to, you know what, we all stumble and we all sin.
Yeah.
And in that moment of sinning, what do sinners need? Do they need to have a finger pointed at them and said, here are the 15 scriptures that says that you're wrong and you're a sinner and you need to repent?
Yeah.
Or is it, from my experience, that's what I think is needed, is you need somebody to step beside you and help pick you back up and
Right.
say, I've been there and you're going to be fine.
Mm-hmm.
And even David says about it in the Psalms, what Jesus does, this is forgiveness. Like Jesus could have turned a blind eye to this man, and he could have been like, you're suffering, you probably deserve it.
Mm.
Enjoy your suffering and enjoy your nakedness.
Yeah.
And then there's great calamity with that community because they looked on that person probably with chastising eyes, just to say, like, he probably, maybe how Job was considered. It's like, well, what have you done that this is happening to you?
Right. I mean, that was the mindset of the Pharisees.
And how beautiful it is to have someone show mercy.
Mm-hmm.
And this is literally God showing mercy on man.
Right.
To say, I don't know how far, and this is extreme speculation when it comes to like demon possession and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
We have freedom of will. So my assumption, and this is just me speculating, just me thinking and considering these stories and saying, well, like how could this be real unless this person invited those demons into his body? I mean, and I could be completely wrong. But and if I am, then let me be wrong and let me be corrected. But when it comes to how can someone be so demon possessed, you almost think that maybe he did some calamity in his life. Maybe he had done something horrible, and maybe he wanted this retribution on himself, and then he was possessed.
Yeah, I don't know about the details like that, but what I do know is that sin can be like a fire that starts off very small, and that's when you want to squash it out, but then it just becomes a raging fire, and that's really hard to fight without Jesus.
I know there's been some celebrities that just sort of have encountered the gospel, and they reject it and saying,
Right.
I'm too far gone. I've done so many bad things that there's no way for me to be saved. Regret, almost self-hate to the point where
self-loathing.
where no, Christ can't help me. And here is a physical representation of someone who's so possessed, so much of a societal calamity that they've chained him. He lives in a tomb and they have him under guard.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody knew about this guy. And it's how do we contain this person? Let's chain him up. It reminds me of the Goonies, Sloth,
Yeah.
where it's sort of like he's chained to the wall. And then, but did it work? No, because he would rip the chains out and he would tear his bonds.
Right.
Anyway,
Right.
this is a fascinating story. Just to say, to come back to the conclusion, Jesus shows great mercy on this man in confronting the demons. There's a lot to unpack. The demons recognize Christ.
Oh, for sure.
And they even name him.
Mm-hmm.
And they confess the great confession, which is interesting because what's the one thing that we're supposed to do? We're supposed to confess who Jesus is. Do you believe
Right.
that Jesus is the Son of God? And here are demons, and there's many of them. They call themselves Legion.
Well, yeah, Jesus. Oh, is it Jesus or another book says even demons believe? Maybe it's James.
And they tremble, right? Huh?
Mm-hmm.
Is
That
it
was the
James?
verse that I was thinking of. I think it's in James.
James. Yeah, I think you're right.
Even the demons believe. And that's the thing is they said Jesus, the Son of the Most High God.
Mm.
And I would even propose in my narrative reading of this, this is long before any Jew we have record of in the Gospels. So if you take the Gospel accounts and you look at them chronologically as best you can,
Sure.
that the demons are the ones who confess Jesus is the Son of God before any of the Jews do.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, they're doing the confessing for them.
And then if you look at the woman at the well, she's the one who, like Jesus, she says, well, we're looking for the Messiah. Who is that? And Jesus is like, well, I'm him.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's one of the first times that Jesus actually says who he is.
Or I'm the living water.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so the fact that there's the great confession from a demon that's something to be considered if you're one who just believes that you have to believe.
Right.
And so that there must be more. The demons believe and they even confess. But then they recognize his power. I beg you, do not torment me. That God gives torment to the devils.
Yeah, right. It's for Satan and his servants.
I love the fact that once the mercy happens, he's sitting at his feet.
So that's yeah. And he's there, and he wants to be with Jesus. That's all he wants to be, or do, is to be with Jesus. What was your answer, Caleb? Pull that mic back.
As you see me push my mic away, I'm like, I'm not speaking. I'm not talking. It was a short and sweet answer, but it was similar to Justin's. One, the first thing it made me think of was just all the blessings that he's given to me.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the greatest ones I think for me is that both my parents were Christians, and that's not saying that anyone can't come to the faith.
Right.
But being raised in a sound congregation with parents that, were very centered and focused on making sure that I was raised in the faith and then I developed my own faith, that was one of the greatest blessings. But at the same time, too, sometimes I see people come from the world that have a faith that just astounds me compared to something, just looking inwardly on myself, of being raised in the church and how I've developed my own versus someone that is older than me or same age as me and then they just find Jesus. Sometimes is just a really neat and awe-inspiring testament of faith. But sidetrack there, that, and then also seeing how now God allowed for certain things to happen in my life that at the time there was a lot of questioning why, which I didn't need to, but now it makes sense of learning things that I needed to learn that sometimes were really hard, that I didn't really know I needed to learn, but now looking back on it, I'm like, okay, that makes sense, without getting into specific examples or anything, but
just these open doors.
Open doors. Yeah. Or even just really difficult things that happen in life that at the time it just seemed like that I didn't know why it was happening, but then later on I was like, okay, I needed that to learn, to grow from, because I was either weak at something that I needed to grow in, or I don't know if that makes sense or not. But,
no, it does. I feel like Jesus can change your perspective to see some of the things that we did when we're young and dumb and foolish, and then realize almost in a weird way that was a blessing.
Yeah, and in the teen class just this past weekend, they have these icebreaker questions, and the icebreaker question was, would you rather rewind your life, pause your life, or fast forward? And you can take that so many different ways.
Was that Jacob?
Yeah.
Jacob, you're a smart dog.
But one of the kids just, I wasn't even really thinking. I was like, probably rewind. There were a lot of mistakes that I made that, I might like to redo. And then one of the kids was like, well, I kind of want to just pause because it's a good time of life. And I want to rewind because I've made some mistakes, but they made me who I was. And I was like, oh, man, that was such a great answer.
Wow, those are some good answers from teens. That's
Yeah,
awesome. Yeah, I think I would want to, like that week, I'd want to pause. Yeah. But I don't know. What about you? Would you want to rewind?
I think one of the...
No one wants to fast forward, huh?
One kid did. He wanted to get past school. I was like, okay.
I think
no more
yes.
homework.
I think that's a very sound... Honestly, there's probably some people going through a certain season of their life where they want to fast forward.
Yeah.
If I can only get through this, and get to more peaceful times or what have you. I'm sure there's people listening that are like that too. Nobody likes suffering, but
The most biblical answer would be to fast forward.
Well, for the hope that
right
is within us.
Maybe not fast, but forward.
No.
I know that there's certain things to really take pause, especially like I would say to live in the moment, to smell the roses, to be in the mountains, to look at the leaves falling, to be in a hammock while the babbling brook beside you is rolling by.
That was it.
And vacations are nice. I would even go so far to say that the American way is probably detrimental to our mental health, because I'm just work. And this last week I moved, and so it was just work. There was no rest. And then by the time I was so tired to rest, I needed to rest, my bed wasn't set up. So I slept on the couch or what have you, like make sure that the kids are good and make sure that the dog doesn't pee on the floor and doesn't, all of those things that just have to be done.
There is no rest for the weary.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of, you add that, or apply that, I should say, to this story. I mean, the demon-possessed man had no rest being possessed by demons, essentially. And even though God gave him a sense of normal, there was a sense of rest, at least a starting platform. So rest doesn't always have to be a pause, but maybe a slow down, maybe a launching pad.
So when we were talking about, did we talk about cold plunges before?
Yeah, we did. We
talked
about cold plunges.
I can't remember when we hit record or not because we were sitting here chatting. We were talking about hot showers and cold showers and cold plunges and like the health benefits and things like that, just sort of curiosities. I really like hot showers because they really allow you to put that away, and then there's just nothing but your thoughts.
Yeah.
And there's something to having a day of rest. And that I don't think I've purposefully ever taken a day of rest and not had a book to read, my phone, the internet, or even if you go on a hike, you kind of want somebody to know where you are, or what have you. Yeah. Where it's nice to just say, for today, I think I'm going to rest and I'm going to just sit and do nothing. And to have that contemplation, almost like have the shower, but extend that for the whole day.
Yeah. You make a good point there. I think that's control, because no one wants to get rid of technology, but I certainly would like maybe a day or two without technology. Or not get distracted by that text message my wife just sent me.
The kids. She's going to be mad at you when she listens to this. You didn't answer me?
Well, she's probably mad at me right now. I'm just kidding.
We were just talking about taking a Sabbath from our communication. Anyway.
No. Anyway, just saying, like I think we want a sense of control in our life where we can kind of control, this is the day where I'm going to be focused on this. This is the day where I can use this and not be addicted or distracted. And for this man who's going to go tell people what Jesus had done for him, I mean, Jesus gave him a sense of control over his life, where he's no longer ruled by these demons, no longer ruled by this sin, but now he's in control to do what God wants him to do. And that's pretty powerful. I think we can go tell people, look, I have now a sense of control in my life and a perspective that allows me to see the truth and heal from wounds and help those in need. Not everyone has that.
One of the things that really struck me in the story is the conclusion. Verse 38 says, but the man whom the demons had gone out was begging Jesus that he might accompany him. But Jesus sent him away, saying, return to your house and tell everybody the great things God has done for you. How many of the characters that Jesus encounters that he says, take up your cross and follow me, who actually did it? And then there were some who didn't. There were some who said,
good point.
I'm really sad, I don't want to follow you. And this guy wants to follow Jesus.
Yeah.
And Jesus is like, no, you have to stay here basically and minister to this community, which I really wish that we knew his name and we knew more about him. And I mean, because that's an amazing story.
That's the forgotten soldier.
That's almost like a Saul, someone who wreaks havoc in the church and then becomes one of the greatest servants. It's like because they've experienced what God has done for them.
I think that's a good way to end it.
Well, I know that for the call to those, if you're in a hard time, if you want to fast forward your life right now, that some great comforts can be found on the pages of the New Testament and the Old. looking at the Bible and looking to Jesus. And if you don't have a community of faithful people who are trying to do God's will in a church or in some type of community where they're trying to spread God's love, then we encourage you to do so and reach out and get involved in your local congregations and to look toward Christ.
Go so. If you want to know more about the Bible or you have any questions, our email is in the description below. You can DM us. We'd love to hear from you. And if you're looking for a church family or you're in the Lubbock area, we invite you to come visit and hang out with us in Milwaukee. We love for you to find a church who practices the love of Christ.